I almost said good afternoon, but good morning, everyone. It's been a busy morning already. Welcome to the first of two forums that we have today here at North Idaho College. We are honored to welcome Dr. Nick Swayne as one of our candidates to be North Idaho College's next president. I just shared a little bit with him about what the next hour is going to look like, but I'll share it with all of you. And we have quite a few people that are joining us as well on Zoom. So thank you to the faculty members, staff members, community members, some retirees who have joined us in person this morning to welcome Dr. Swayne and listen to some remarks that he has. We will have a series of about 8 questions to ask him this morning. And then I'll also give him a little opportunity, hopefully at the end, for some wrap-up comments. As well, at the beginning, I'll ask Dr. Swayne to take over and do a few introductory introductions of himself. But let me go ahead and share with you just a couple of highlights off of his biography. And for those of you that are interested in learning more about all of our candidates, you can go onto our website, www.nic.edu/presidential search. You'll see the complete bios of our candidates, as well as there's an opportunity to give feedback on our candidates. There's a feedback form that you can fill out. That information will go directly to our executive search. I almost called them the committee, but the executive search consultants who've been working with our search committee, the Poly Group. The Poly Group will compile all the feedback that has been presented on and shared about our different candidates, and then they'll share that information with our Board of Trustees. Sound good? Okay, so Dr. Swayne currently serves as the executive director of For Virginia and is the founder of a comprehensive academic innovation ecosystem at James Madison University. And prior to being at James Madison University, he served in multiple leadership roles around the nation and around the world in the U.S. Army. And of note, and he'll share a little bit more about himself, he also has ties to this region, grew up in the area, and went to the University of Idaho for his undergraduate degree. Dr. Swayne, would you like to do a few introductory comments on your own, and then we'll jump right into the questions.
Right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming. It's a wonderful wet sunshine out there, and I think it's great because over the past 3 or 4 years, I've lived in Virginia and read about or seen pictures of the forest fires that are prevalent out in this area. So having all this rain is great because it might take some of the fire away. So that's great. I did want to note a little bit about myself. When you look at my title, Executive Director for Virginia, nobody knows what that is. So I did want to give you just a little bit of a background on what it is and what I do and where I'm coming from. I've been in higher ed since 2001. As she said, I was in the Army for 26 years, and I came to JMU as the head of the ROTC program. At James Madison University is a 22,000 student 4-year program. And as the department head of the ROTC program there, I took the program. When I got there, we were ranked 231 out of 234 in the country. And in 2 years, we were ranked #1 in the country. And so how did I do that? What was the difference? And it was primarily through recruiting and retention of students. And I think that has a lot to do with some of the things that needs to happen here is, how do we recruit more students and retain them? So I think it's relevant. In 2007, I transitioned from active duty Army to a full-time academic career. And I did what was called external relations for the College of Education. So during that time, I also served as the director of the Education Support Center. The Education Support Center places student teachers and practicum students in all of the student teaching experiences. So we had about 1,500 student teacher placements every semester that we had to take care of. And in that role, I also went through NCATE accreditation. NCATE is the teacher certification, and also SACS, which is the institution's certification. So 2 different visits, and both of those went through with no deficiencies. In 2011, the president and the provost of the university asked me to take over this program called For Virginia. It was a brand new program funded by the governor. And the purpose of the program was to simply innovate higher ed. And they had a couple of different programs that they wanted us to institute: collaborative research, degree completion, course sharing, and course redesign. That's why they called it For Virginia, those 4 different areas. So I took that on. It was pretty high vis. It was funded by the state. And the president asked me to do it, and basically handed me a stack of emails and says, go figure it out. And so one of the things that I did as part of that was to complete that mission of course sharing and course redesign. I created a program called JMUX Lab, and you can look it up if you want. I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but we created JMUX Labs as a way of kind of achieving those goals that For VA had established. And in 2 years, the JMUX Labs was noted. So we started in 2015, and by 2019 or so, we were highlighted by the Chronicle of Higher Ed as being an exemplar program for how to innovate higher ed. I've also have a couple of other hats. I run a robotics program, First Lego League, for middle schools, one of the largest programs for middle school students. We run that through the university as kind of a strategic recruiting program, get kids interested in STEM programs when they're middle school, get them associating those STEM programs with the higher ed, and then they attend. During that time, I also finished my PhD. I was elected for the first time as to the Harrisburg City School Board in 2009, and I've been elected 4 times since. And I also run the Veteran Scholars Task Force at the university, trying to make it easier for veterans to come to campus and get their degrees. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll open it up for questions then.
Thank you so much. So we'll roll right into our first question. Why are you interested in coming to North Idaho? And what is your understanding of both the advantages and the challenges we have in this region?
Well, in my bio, it says I graduated from the University of Idaho. I actually grew up in Idaho. So I grew up in Moscow, spent time, my dad graduated from college, I don't know, when I was in middle school or something. So I grew up in Lewiston, Orfino, and Moscow is where I spent most of my time growing up. When I graduated from high school, a lot of my friends came to North Idaho College. And North Idaho College, and that's where I think the strength of the college is teaching people the application. What is it you're going to do when you graduate? And so it really becoming this sort of a destination for people to figure out what they want to do, figure out the application, and then if they want to go on to a 4-year degree or start their careers. So I think that's positioning North Idaho College in that way is what really interests me. And it was at the time that's what my friends saw it as. And I'd really like for it to be that. Again, how we get there is going to be a little bit different than when I graduated from high school. But I think that's the real heart of what interests me. What are the challenges? I think the challenges are there's a lot more space than there are people. Things are spread out all over. It's pretty sparsely populated. Idaho is not a very populous state. So concentrating the college here and trying to get people to come here is hard. There's not one big industry. We have lumber tourism, some technology, but there's not a central industry that really draws people here. So how do we make all that work and make it competitive for our community? I think those are some of the big challenges.
So North Idaho College has a participatory form of governance. What is your approach to college governance, and how do you invite a variety of different voices when soliciting input, especially on controversial topics?
Well, I think the role of president is to show up, to be present, to listen, observe. I asked a bunch of my friends before coming here, what are those kinds of questions and how they see me, and they said, well, you're definitely not a top-down person, So getting those voices together, listening, pulling all the pertinent things out, and figuring out how do we move forward. And I think the big thing is finding common ground. What is the purpose of the institution is to prepare students to live and work and advance in their careers in this community. And so as a community, we need to get together and find that common ground, figure out how do we promote the students, how do we promote the faculty, how do we promote the institution and the community, and move forward with sort of one voice. And it doesn't have to be, everyone gets to participate in that. And so I think that's really the key is the getting everybody's participation, getting everyone's buy-in. And of course, I grew up here. Not everyone is going to agree, right? Not everyone's going to agree, but we try to do the best thing for the students and the faculty and the community. And so that's how.
So as you know, North Idaho College is a comprehensive community college. And how would you go about facilitating and promoting a holistic approach to education that includes students who are looking for formal and informal learning, for credit, not for credit, on campus, virtual, hybrid schedules, flexible schedules, you name it?
Well, yeah. So I don't know that North Idaho College is unique in that. I mean, I think that's a role of most community colleges. Most community college has to be, I won't say all things to all people, but a lot of things to a lot of different people, because we're trying to provide career and technical education. We're trying to provide skills that industry needs people trained in. And we're also trying to provide programming for students that want to transfer to a 4-year. Those are distinct, different categories, and you do that by really focusing on each one of them and trying to build up what is distinctive. What can we do that is distinctive for North Idaho College? What can we do better than others? And I think one of the things that really should be distinctive is that people should look at North Idaho College as a destination. How can we aspire to be the destination where people come here because it is the best option, not a lesser option, but the best option in each of those categories? Businesses come to us because we are the most efficient way of training their employees. Students come here because we are going to set them up for life. The parents want their children to come here because we are going to provide the best education. So I think those are the way we do that.
Thank you, Dr. Swayne. So share with us a little bit about how you've done this in the past and how you would do this now with North Idaho College. How have you been able to raise morale and create a sense of community for employees and students?
Couple things. Inspiration, I think, is people want to be inspired. They want to get behind a larger cause. They want to make a contribution that matters, and make a contribution that other people value. And so we've got to define that. We've got to define what that is. And I think we got to start speaking with one voice about how to move forward and really promote the great things that are happening here and what successes come from that. And that's, I mean, it's not easy, and it's probably 100 little things that have to happen, but we have to be able to, you know, when people ask you what's great about North Idaho College, people should have a something to say. What is great about it? And when you ask community members, they should be able to say what's great about it. Why should your student come here? And so sharing those messages, sharing that information, and getting people behind that that inspiring those inspiring success stories. I met with a gentleman this morning that does the illustration program here, and he was all excited that he had 14 students and they were all getting placed in jobs, and they were working for companies like Marvel Comics, doing illustrations. And you know, that story needs to get out there. If you're getting 100% of your students placed in with Marvel, places like Marvel Comics, that story needs to get out there, and people need to know it. And so people then come to North Idaho College because that network exists, those inspiring stories exist, and they understand that the faculty and the staff and the whole institution is behind their success.
So we are now rolling into question number 5. You're doing great on time. Okay. What challenges do you see the next president of North Idaho College facing? And if you were to become our next president, what sort of plans would you have to address them?
I think higher education is changing, and North Idaho College plays a role in that. Four-year institutions are great, and I think our nation is where we are because the four-year institutions have been able to provide that the traditional degree and promote the students. But as we move forward, our world is getting more and more complex. We need to have students that are in that world while they're learning, not waiting to join it until after they graduate. So how do we start to build those kinds of relationships where our students are able to work in the community, to demonstrate the knowledge that they're learning, build networks of that are going to support them once they graduate, wherever they go, whether they stay local or go somewhere else. They have those networks that support them and understand how to build those kinds of networks and continue their education and continue their development wherever they might go. I think a comprehensive community college like North Idaho is great for that, because you can come here and get a career and technical education and then go work in that field for a while, and then come back and then go work in that field for a while, and then come back. And I think that kind of lifelong learning is really where a place like North Idaho College can demonstrate its strengths and demonstrate the future of education, of higher education, as being an applied and practical part of people's lives.
So Dr. Swayne, this next question is, the two parts of the question are distinct. So if you don't mind, I'm going to split them up into 2 questions. Is that okay? As a college president, what is your perspective on academic freedom?
So, yeah, academic freedom does not mean that you get to do whatever you want. Academic freedom means that you're here to teach a certain content area, and you're free to teach that content area in the way that meets the course objectives, and make sure that students are exposed to all the things that they're supposed to be exposed to in that course, without being singled out or worrying about what it is you do during the course. I think faculty have to have, it's more than just faculty. People need to feel that they're safe to have their own ideas, that they're safe to discuss those ideas, and that the variety of ideas are welcome and supported. And so I think that's a critical component for faculty to feel like they're valued, is to feel that their voice matters. So I think that's pretty much how I see academic freedom. Still have to meet the course objectives.
Thank you. And now, what is your perspective on tenure?
Yeah, tenure is an interesting. Tenure doesn't necessarily. We've had folks that were tenured faculty at my university that were not continued. There is a tenure review process, and folks that are not performing adequately, even though they are tenured, can be asked to depart the institution. And I think at most community college, tenure is a bit different. It's not tenured the way a 4-year institution is. It's kind of a continuing contract. And I think tenure should not be used as a weapon. You shouldn't get it or have it taken away just for frivolous reasons. But faculty should know that their employment is secure, and they shouldn't be worrying about that if they're doing their job and meeting their course objectives.
Thank you. Well, this Monday morning and this afternoon, you'll have the opportunity to meet some more folks and experience the main campus of North Idaho College. And then tomorrow, you'll get the opportunity to visit Parker Technical Education Center up on the Rathrum Prairie, and then over to our Workforce Training Center. So what are some of the things that you might do to facilitate collaboration between the credit and the non-credit programs inside of North Idaho College?
I'd say most of what I've done in the JMUX labs is that we take what we do is try to work on problems. So we're not discipline focused. So I don't teach chemistry. We don't teach math. We don't teach engineering. We take problems as broad as homelessness and autonomous vehicles, and we pull in people from across campus, faculty and students from across campus, to work on those problems and try to make a difference. And so one of the things that we're stuck with is, at a 4-year institution, I've been surprised at how many of, we're on Zoom, so I don't, hopefully none of my engineering friends back home are listening, but many of our my engineering faculty, we're a 4-year institution. Many of them have never actually made anything. I grew up on on the side of town in Moscow, and my dad was an engineer and a lawyer, and we made things. We built stuff. And so when something isn't working, it's the red wire. You got to figure that out. And so being able to figure that out, we've been stymied by that because we don't have students or faculty that know how to make things. And so we have these really incredible programs of working on autonomous vehicles, but actually building the autonomous vehicle, it's been a struggle because our faculty don't know how to do that, and the students have had to figure it out. And so I think there are ways of doing that in a 2-year institution like North Idaho College, where we have faculty and students that know how to make things, and bringing those folks together with the students on the 4-credit side. I think there's a world of opportunity that could open up for those students. I know that there's one of the gentlemen on the search committee was one of the hospital administrators, and I've also thought about inventing things to solve problems for nurses, because we also have a big nursing program here. So you have nurses, and nobody invents things to solve nurse problems. They solve doctor problems. They don't solve nurse problems, because nurse problems are cheap and you don't make a lot of money. But you can, if you start to get students interested in solving nurse problems inventing things and making things, then I think there's a nice bridge between nursing and the engineering program and the career and technical education program here, where you can actually start inventing things and again, making something that is unique to North Idaho College.
So we're going to move to our last question. So you're doing great on time.
Wow.
And then you'll have the opportunity, the floor will be yours. So if you want me to go back and ask you a question again to elaborate a little bit more, or for you to share more about yourself, the time will be yours. But I'm going to break this. This is a 3-part question, so I'm going to give it to you in 3 parts. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So let's start off with, how do you develop talent at an institution?
Well, the best way to develop talent is to, that like Cisco goes and buys a company, right? Cisco doesn't invent anything anymore. They go buy another company. So you can go hire people that have expertise. That's one way. You can really just look at the people that you have and figure out where, and this is what I would say for a place like North Idaho College, you've got great faculty. You got about 450, 500 employees. You have great faculty, great staff. And if there's a gap between what you know and what I want you to know, then we find training programs that get you, that close that gap. And I think most people recognize that if that gap is identified and you explain it to them, say, hey, okay, you're here, you're doing a great job, but I want you to do more. I want you to learn more, and I'm going to send you to training to get that skill. People are willing to do that. You're improving them. You're giving them professional development. You're not just telling them, hey, you're not doing what we want you to do. No, I'm going to identify the gap, and I'm going to identify training and then develop you. So I think that kind of training is it's how I grew up. Every couple of years, we'd get sent off to another school, another program to prepare you for your next job. And so if we have faculty that are or staff that are not able to do that next level stuff, there's plenty of training out there that we can send them to make that available online or in person.
So Dr. Swayne, your comments have already started to bridge you to this next part of the question. So if you'd like to elaborate a little bit more, how do you help employees gain new skills at all levels of the institution?
Yeah, well, training. I mean, the nice thing about being in the Army is there are training programs for everything. And it's much like a community college in that regard. There's, at every couple of years, as you're going to advance or the technology changes, you have to come up with a training program that closes that gap and develops people. And of course, you're going to have people that say, I'm not interested. Okay, that's fine. We'll find something else for you to do, or maybe you find something else to do. But ultimately, most people, if we're able to show you what's needed, and we talk to you about what's needed and why you need to advance this skill, and that we're going to provide that opportunity for you, I think most people are pretty open to it. I mean, we're actually developing you, not, we're not just saying, hey, you don't have the skills, fix yourself. No, we're going to provide that kind of development and the inspiration for you to get it.
And the final part of this question, how do you keep good people?
You make people feel, not just feel, but I value your being here. I value your presence. I appreciate the work you do. And I make that known to you every day. And again, I'm present, I'm observing, I'm talking to people. And I think if people understand that you're there, I understand what you're doing, I value your presence, I value what you're doing. People stay because of good bosses. I can tell you that my experience throughout my career, both in the military and academics, people leave because of bad bosses and they stay because of good bosses. They don't leave because of money. I mean, sometimes the pay is so good that you got to go, or the opportunity is so good that you go. But typically people stay because they enjoy who they're working with. They enjoy the work. The work is meaningful, and the boss and the people they work with appreciate what they're doing and value their work. So that's, I mean, it sounds simple, but I think valuing people and their contributions, 80% of what we do here is people. So valuing people and the work that they do is critical to retaining them.
Thank you. So that ends the formal questions we had. Again, I'm going to give you the opportunity. This is your time. If you wanted to share a little more free flow about yourself, or if there was maybe something that you thought about in one of the questions, if you'd like me to go back and repeat one of the questions, if you'd like to elaborate on it, it's your time.
Well, I have notes from my meetings with my colleagues back at JMU that gave me some points. I'll just review that and see if there's anything that comes out.
Absolutely, we're here for you.
So one of the things that we're served by two community colleges. We're right in the middle between Blue Ridge Community College and Prince William Community College, and I've known the presidents of those schools for a long time. And I called them up before I came out here. I said, what worries you? What are the things that you are concerned about? And the number one thing, the first one I called Kim, she said, what's the population of the community and is it growing? And I said, yeah, Coeur d'Alene is one of the biggest, one of the fastest growing communities in the country, second only to Boise in the state. And again, one of the fastest growing in the community. And she says, well, why is the population of the enrolled population going down? And she said, we got to, that's the first thing you got to do, figure that out. Why? And that's, I value the students' input. And we got to go out and talk to the students. Why are you, if the population going up by 5% and the enrollments are going down by 3 to 5%, then there's something we're not connecting. And how do we close that gap? We've got to figure that out. And so I think that's one of the real critical areas that we should be working on. And it'd be one of the first things that I would focus on. And again, I think that is, I can't tell you enough how much I value students. On my references, I listed 4 of my former students because I wanted the Poly Group folks to reach out and talk to them, because as a president of a community college, you have to be able to relate not just the faculty and staff, but also to the students. So I wanted them to talk to those students. They know me, they have my cell phone number, they call me, they ask me to go into business with them, to support them. And I probably got a couple hundred that I could list. I listed 4, but I think that's critical. And those students, if they believe that you're actually going to listen to them, they will tell you why people aren't signing up. They'll tell you how to fix that problem. Now, sometimes what they tell you and what you can do are not the same things, but you understand what they're talking about. And I said, okay, I can't do that, but I can do this. I think that'll solve that problem. And that's really the JMU XLab program that we came up with was one of those programs. And in 4 years, it becomes nationally ranked. So I think that student engagement is really important. I think listening to faculty is really important. My colleagues, when we met, they said, Nick, you're different than most of our administrators. You actually listen to us and you help develop frameworks that support the work that we want to do and help us grow and do more than we thought we could do. So I think that's a really interesting perspective that I could bring here as well. I think getting our students to, out in the community, our faculty out in the community, doing working on solving problems with the community. The students understand when I graduate with a degree in engineering or computer science or nursing or biology, this is how my discipline is going to contribute to the community. Getting them to understand that and start building a network of people here helps to get them to come back, which is part of the, even if they go on to a 4-year institution, getting them to come back here and stay here, I think is really key. So having those connections with the community, I think is something that we've got to really work on as well. We've done things like food trucks and working with the United Way, all kinds of different programs that do that really well, where this gets the students, the faculty, and the community working together. And I think the North Idaho College and really a forward-thinking community college in general can be the educations that I wish I had, and I think building the education when people your age walk into my JMUX lab, they say, "Wow, I wish they had this when I was in college," because you can see this is, if I'm a computer scientist or a biology major or a nursing major, I can see how my discipline, how my major is going to apply to solving problems, working on teams, and making a difference. And so, I think building the education that we wish we had when we were growing up is something that I think we should aspire to in North Idaho College. And if we work with the students and think about that, what we would have liked to have, and coaching and working with the students to identify that and move forward, I think that's a very interesting perspective. That's all I got.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, on behalf of all of our faculty and our staff and our community members and those that are watching from afar and some retirees that we have joining us today, I just wanted to thank you. Thank you for coming from Virginia, even though your roots are here, to explore this opportunity and possibly be our next president at North Idaho College. We really appreciate the amount of time and value, or what you have valued in this process, and that you will continue to do for the next 24 hours with us. So really appreciate that. And just a little teaser too for everyone. We have a phenomenal culinary arts program here at North Idaho College. So you mentioned food trucks. We have a great deli and a restaurant, and teasing out, hopefully soon we'll be launching Bistro on the Beach, which will be a food truck trailer too. So stay tuned for that.
Great.
And everyone, thank you again for joining us. And don't forget, on our website, www.nic.edu/presidential search, we'll give you an opportunity to look at the full bio of Dr. Swayne, as well as be able to provide input into that feedback form. So thank you. Have a great afternoon.